So as we finish out Unit 2, we move into Chapter 11. Chapter 11 gets into probability, and we're just going to do the first section. We're just going to introduce you into some of the basics to probability. So when it comes to probability, probability is a branch of math that studies how likely an event is going to occur. So it helps us analyze uncertainty using numbers between 0 and 1. A lot of times these numbers between 0 and 1 are converted to percentages as well. So I follow the weather a lot, and the chance for a thunderstorm to occur, chance of rain to occur, or in the wintertime, like I said, the likelihood that we're going to get this many inches of snow, those are probabilities done with some type of models to determine the likelihood. Our probabilities are not going to be that complicated at this point. So the basic ideals we have to start with are what we call probabilities and what's called odds. So let's look at the key differences between what a probability is and what odds are. So when we determine probability that an event will happen, a lot of times you'll see this P of E where this stands for the probability of the event. The probability of that event occurring, we use this formula here. So the number of favorable outcomes goes on the top and the total outcomes goes on the bottom. So it's going to be written as a fraction, but that fraction can be converted to a decimal or a percent based on what best communicates that information. So favorable outcomes over the total outcomes, that's probability. Odds are just a little bit different. Odds compare how many ways an event can happen to how many ways it cannot happen. So, so the two major types of odds are the odds in favor of an event and the odds against an event. So we have odds. So odds in favor of an event happening is going to be the number of favorable outcomes over the number of unfavorable outcomes. So that's what we have as odds. So if I look at question one in our homework, it's asking us to, let me see if I can get my pen to work here. So give the numerical response. So we got the odds in favor of obtaining a 5 when a single fair dice is tossed are. So a lot of times when we do this, odds are going to be in the form of a fraction or what we call a ratio. So I think in your homework they actually use the word two. So on a die, we know there are one, two, three, four, five, six possible outcomes. If we're looking for a five, that's the only favorable outcome for us is a five. So five is the only favorable outcome, and the unfavorable outcomes are the things that are not a five. So the one, the two, the three, the four, and the six. So that means there's one, two, three, four. There's five unfavorable outcomes. So the odds of obtaining a five would be one chance in favor to five chances unfavorable. So we can write that as in this form of 1 to 5. Odds are a lot of times written that way. So I think that's the way they are in this book as well, is just simply one in favor to five unfavorable. So we have that kind of going on. So if we look at homework question 3, give the probability that a spinner would land on A, B, C. Okay, we have 3 different choices here. Assume all sectors of the spinner are the same size. So if we look at this, the probability of getting a red, notice how Probability is the favorable outcomes divided by the total outcomes. So if I look at the spinner, there's only one sector that is red. So that's one that's favorable. But notice how there are three possible outcomes. So that's 1/3. So a lot of times probabilities are written as fractions. So 1 to 3 would be the probability of getting a red. Oh, so one chance out of three. The probability of getting a yellow, notice how only one sector is yellow, and so we have 1 in 3 chance to get a yellow. So 1/3 chance of getting a yellow. Notice how blue is the same way. There's 1 out of 3 on the blue. So each one of those would just be 1/3 as a fraction. So a lot of times probabilities will be expressed as fractions or decimals. So notice how these answers are between 0 and 1. 1/3 is closer to 0 though, so it's kind of an unlikely event in that sense. But like I said, a 1 in 3 chance is still, for some people, it's a fairly high number. So again, probability is the chance an event will happen. So the probability of an event happening would be the favorable outcomes divided by the total outcomes. And that's kind of what we did here. Okay, so I'll stop there and we'll pick up some more questions here.